Hi, I'm Pat Kiernan. This is Pat's Papers. We go through the nation's newspapers every weekday morning to thin it out, to cut through the clutter, to give you some of what we think is most relevant for you to read in the morning. Here's some of what we found for you today. I look at the headlines in dozens of newspapers every day in preparing for this report. The Richmond Times-Dispatch is typical of a headline that keeps showing up. You name the state. One state after another with a budget crisis. The Virginia story here, examining the effort to cut costs to deal with a $2.9 billion shortfall in the state budget there. If nobody's buying the cars, there's really no sense filling the dealer lots with inventory they can't move. So Chrysler announced yesterday it is going to temporarily close all 30 of its factories. The Detroit Free Press says that idles 46,000 workers for a month. The Wall Street Journal reporting in this morning's edition that merger talks between Chrysler and General Motors are back on, as both companies look at their options as they run low on cash. The Washington Post does an interesting piece this morning on the 27-year-old chief speechwriter for President-elect Barack Obama. Jon Favreau is the youngest person ever named chief speechwriter, and he appears to be completely in sync with Obama. Also in the Post this morning, the Washington angle on the Madoff securities investment fraud. The Post has a scathing editorial about the inability of regulators to see $50 billion disappearing. The piece concludes by saying, regulators let the people down in this case big time. That must be investigated as urgently as Mr. Madoff's alleged crimes. Madoff's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, along with excerpts from email. There was an independent investigator named Harry Markopolos who was convinced years ago that Madoff's returns were too good to be true. A 2005 email printed here in which Markopolos said Madoff Securities is likely a Ponzi scheme. The LA Times looks at yesterday's appointments by President-elect Barack Obama. Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack becomes Secretary of Agriculture. Senator Ken Salazar of Colorado will become Interior Secretary. Californians are concerned that Salazar will be partial to his home state's use of water from the Colorado River. But overall, the story says there is optimism that both of these appointments are good for rural economies. The Des Moines Register featuring an exclusive with the two-term Democratic Governor Vilsack, who indicated last month that he would not be Obama's choice as Agriculture Secretary. He says he will be guided by his Iowa roots. He will head to D.C. to get started as soon as possible. At the inauguration next month, the benediction will come from Atlanta civil rights icon Joseph Lowery. The 87-year-old tells the Atlanta Journal-Constitution he doesn't overthink these things. He says, I always read the benediction the night before, and it won't be any different on January 20th. One more Obama note. The New York Post announces that it's got the secret Obama photos. Time magazine discovered these photos taken when Obama was 20 years old. The story says the college freshman was already showing off the quiet confidence of a future president. The pictures were taken by a college friend named Lisa Jack. The Houston Chronicle picking up today on OPEC's plan to cut oil production, or at least to call for a cut in production. The idea, as always, to try to push the price of oil higher. As usual, it's not clear whether the members of the cartel will actually obey their own production targets. Technology news. There's a lot of buzz around the Bay that Apple is pulling out of the Macworld conference. The company has made that clear, but caused some controversy this week when it announced that CEO Steve Jobs will not make his usual keynote address. The San Francisco Chronicle looks at the history of this event through the recollections of David Bunnell, who recalls the first Macworld event in 1985. Jobs didn't attend that one either. A new tech product highlighted in the Wall Street Journal this morning. T-Mobile launching a new digital photo frame for $10 extra a month on your cell phone account. This thing connects to the cell phone network to automatically pick up new pictures. That means you can put it in Grandma's house, and she will get new photos whenever you upload them. There are similar products out there, but until now they have required either a connection to a computer network or a connection to a phone line. This one just picks up the phones from the cellular network. A story of excess on Wall Street on the front page of the New York Times. It's a look at compensation at Merrill Lynch in recent years. In particular, the Times focuses on a guy named Dow Kim, who ran Merrill's mortgage business. He was paid $35 million in 2006. Because he seemingly had such good profit numbers. It has now become very clear those mortgages weren't such a good business move after all. NFL and Texas Christian football great Sam Baugh died last night. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram describes the pillar of the NFL, who still holds the record for best punt average. He threw for more tthan 22,000 yards, 187 touchdowns in his time in the pros. Finally, the price really was right. The New York Post reporting on the result of the Showcase Showdown on The Price is Right, the episode that ran yesterday on CBS. A contestant identified as Terry guessed his showcase was worth $23,743. He was right to the exact dollar. But particularly odd was the reaction of host Drew Carey, who was subdued to say the least. Some fans are speculating online that there was suspicion of cheating on the day the show was taped. And those are just some of the headlines this morning. Thanks for joining us for Pat's Papers. Go to patspapers.com, scroll down on the main page, and you will see links to the individual newspapers where these stories were published. You can read them for yourself there and read more from any one of those newspapers.